All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are really excited to hear your thoughts on the pools and parks. We've developed a few concepts that we're going to be sharing with you tonight. This is the second public meeting, technically, kind of the third. There were two public meetings that we did that were both the first public meeting for the Abington Pool Feasibility Study, which is looking at the Crestmont and Penbryn pools for renovation, and then also looking at the parks as a whole and see what, as we're working on the pools, what other improvements can be made in the parks. My name is Toby Levin. I'm here from Simone. I'm a landscape architect with Simone Collins, and I'm working as the project manager for this project. Joining me tonight are some other colleagues from Simone Collins, Sarah Leeper and Devin McLaughlin, who will be joining in the presentation. We also have Todd Poole from Forward Planning, and joining us online is Ted Wallover from Wallover Architects, who's working on the pools as well. We have a pretty packed agenda, as you can see here tonight. I'm going to be looking at reviewing just the project as a whole, what the scope is, what our goals are for this project. Then just a quick review of what exists in the parks and pools right now, what facilities are there right now, to kind of establish a baseline of where we are. Then we'll do have Todd come in and share his preliminary market study, looking at what kind of the competitive atmosphere is for the pools, what are the other pools that are maybe drawing on the same population of pool users, and what kind of is the future looking forward at what is the population that will be using these pools that we're considering tonight. After that, we'll have Ted step in, and he's going to review some concepts for the pool complexes themselves, and then we'll look at some additional concepts for the parks as a whole, and review what the next steps are in this planning process, and then we'll be really looking to you all to hear your thoughts on what these concepts showed tonight, what concerns you might have about these concepts, what you like about the concepts, and what ideas maybe you didn't see that you were hoping to see in those concepts as well. If you did not get an agenda when you came in, please do make sure to grab one on the way out. There's a QR code on there for the public opinion survey, which we'll be releasing in the next week or so. We really want to hear. That's another forum for you to share your ideas and your opinions on these concepts. And we really want to get as much of your feedback as we can, because this is really a plan for your pools and for your community. And the best ideas always come from the people who are the community behind the pools and the parks that we're designing. As I mentioned, we've also got a hefty advisory committee working behind our planning efforts tonight. So I know several of them are here tonight, and have really been key to this process. Also, some members of the staff are working with us in the planning process as well. I kind of skipped ahead and already did this. Next, we are Simone Collins Landscape Architecture. We're leading the force behind this planning effort, joined by Forward Planning and Wallover Architects, who are looking at both the economics of the pool to make sure this is a financially sustainable operation as well. And then Ted Wallover from Wallover Architects is the architect behind the pools. Just a brief project overview. The purpose of this project is really to consider the pools and evaluate the long-term viability, community value, and operational sustainability of both the Penbryn pool and the Crestmont pool and their surrounding park environments. We're going to be in this study. We're assessing the existing conditions, what you have right now, identifying what your needs are, which we've already started through the public meetings we've had previously, and then we're working to develop a feasible, inclusive, fiscally responsible options for future improvements. This work is aligned with several existing planning efforts, including the Comprehensive Park Recreation and Open Space Plan that was completed in 2023, and it's also going to be in compliance with the Pennsylvania DCNR planning standards to ensure that these pools are eligible for DCNR funding moving forward. We have several goals that are all a part of this process. You can see them all here. I won't read them in depth, but just on the highlights, we're really looking to create an inclusive, accessible, and welcoming pool environment for all residents, regardless of age or physical ability. We're looking to modernize the pool facilities and to improve the safety, comfort, and user experience of these pool facilities. And we're looking to really expand the opportunities for health, wellness, and recreation in these parks. We're also looking to promote environmental sustainability and ensure financial responsible and sustainable long-term operations are able to come out of these new facilities. We really want to make sure that these are not facilities that are going to bankrupt the township or create more problems down the line than they're solving today. And we're really looking to engage the community throughout the process, which is why we are so excited to have all of you here tonight. This is just one step in a much larger process. We had the initial idea behind the renovating the pools came up about 8 years ago in the 2018 feasibility study that looked at both pools and really found that they both needed to be completely replaced. We're now in a pool feasibility plan where we're in the beginning phases of that still, where we're looking to develop the program and make some preliminary recommendations coming out of this meeting. Really hearing that your feedback will help us to really craft those preliminary recommendations. Then our next public meeting, which won't be until September, is when we'll be able to share the draft plan with you. And once this pool feasibility plan that we're currently engaged in is complete, then the township will be looking to secure funding for the pools and the renovations of the parks. And then we'll be able to finish those permitting and design efforts to come up with the construction documents so that then further down the line we can enter into the construction period. And we'll review all of this process again at the end. You don't have to remember this right now. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Todd Poole to present the preliminary market study. Keeping him on his toes.
So I'm Todd Poole. I'm a managing principal of Forward Planning. We are land use economists, and we perform economic and real estate analysis on behalf of public and private sector clients. Some of our work is focused on recreational spaces and outdoor spaces, so we do this kind of work periodically. Next. And you can skip ahead. All right. I want to bring you through just some high-level metrics that we've identified for the market study. What we try to do when we do these kinds of analyses is we look macro level and then we kind of zoom in to the local level. So on the screen right now, we have these are national participation rates. You see population-wise, approximately just under 10% swim for fitness. 3.8% of the population swims for aquatic exercise, which is considered different from swimming for fitness. It's really not swimming so much as it is just exercising in the water. And then a little bit over 1% of the population swims on teams, which you might imagine those are young kids generally. Why do we look at this? Because we want to see have these metrics apply to your local area when we're thinking about who's participating and what types of activities. So it's a broad swath, but we use this as a metric. And then below, again, these are national. You can see population share by age group, by household income, by race, ethnicity. Household income is a good marker to understand discretionary income. Folks with a good amount of discretionary income, which is really a function of how much household income they generate, period, usually correlates strongly with recreation or fitness swimming. So we look at that as well. Next. When we do these types of analyses, we don't just focus on the community or the subject local area. We need to understand what we refer to as a primary market area, or in this case, a PMA, which is a 15-minute drive time that we're able to develop using GIS systems or geographic information system software. Why the 15 minutes? Number one, it absolutely encompasses Abington, but it also brings into the fold those people who might be participating or using your facility who come from outside of Abington. Be a relatively small share, but we want to know who they might be, what the demographics are. So we use that, and we've taken kind of a central point between the two pools, between Pembrin and Crestmont, to come up with that kind of Rorschach 15-minute drive time. Next. Okay. On the screen, again, we have a full report, so there's a lot more detail than what I'm showing you here. These are kind of the highlights. But in terms of the PMA or primary market area demographic market profile, starting from the left, you've got in that 15-minute area, you've got a population about 234,430, 93,540 households, and with a median household income of almost 106,000. Remember, median is half above, half below. So that's kind of the midpoint. It is not an average. It is different from an average. But here's something I want to point out. Other than it should say 2030, not 230. But in projected, so from 2025 to what should say 2030, population increase of 25-20, that is pretty flat growth, okay? In my line of work, that increase is very negligible over that period of time. Same with households and, pretty much the same with median household income. What does that mean? We don't see a lot of growth happening in this area, which does have influence on goods and services generally, and certainly on use of your pool. I will also say, and we don't have it in here, maybe you can go to the next slide. Well, we kind of do. Why does this matter? It also matters because, and it's more detailed in our study, and I should point it out in this, on the left, on the left graphic here, age distribution, right? We go from on the top 65 plus all the way down to youngsters who are between the ages of 6 and 12. The dark purple represents 2025 estimate, all right? And the lighter purple would be the projection at 2030. Look what you see for 6 to 12-year-olds and 13 to 17-year-olds, right? And let me tell you, this is not a you thing. This is an American thing. The fertility rate is below the replacement level, has been for several years now, and it's not expected to be above the replacement. What's the replacement rate? Is 2.1 children born per childbearing woman. There's fewer kids being produced, okay? And when kids, when a couple decides to have kids, they're just having fewer of them generally. So what we're seeing, and understand, we work throughout the Northeast and the Midwest, okay? So this is not like I only know what's going on. I study demographics really across the US. This is a phenomenon you want to take into consideration when you're thinking about what types of pools, what types of programming, what types of activities, because the population you have today is not going to be the population you have in 10 years. I will bet my last dollar. Okay. It's already happening in the US. If not for immigration, the US's population would be in decline. That's a fact. Okay. So that's that. You have a median age of 43 years. All right. What does that mean? So what question? 43 years, it's kind of on the aging bracket. Younger communities, we would normally see probably 35 or younger as a median. At 43, it's not like it's that elevated, but that's also trending higher. Household income, quite strong. I mean, you guys know where you live. That's quite favorable for an amenitized aquatic facility. Next. Okay. More good metrics telling us about what local folks might be spending or willing to spend on what we consider discretionary services and items. This is for, or at least the highlighted numbers on the left represent metrics for the primary market area. So for example, that 416 is the average annual household spend on club fees and admissions. Now, I said club fees and admissions. I didn't say specifically on going to a pool. Within that 416, certainly somebody might be spending on a membership to go to a pool or have an annual membership. It's just to say, on average, households in that 15-minute market area are spending that much. On average, households spending on recreational lessons, $225. We might surmise that, 25 to 50% represents teaching a kid how to swim. I don't know that. We don't have those specific metrics. And then per census data, and this is extrapolated, a little over 17% when this survey was done of folks in this 15-minute primary market area participated in swimming in that past month. Yes. We would assume it was a summer month because they asked that question. I can't guarantee it. What's that? Oh, sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you look on the right-hand side, the graphics there, in the purple blue color is the township. That 15-minute is prominently in orange or burnt orange. And then gray represents Montgomery County. And then the Philadelphia MSA is kind of that gold yellow. So you can see how you guys stack up. You're pretty consistent with what we're seeing in the 15-minute primary market area, which is not a great surprise. You're very strong with regard to share of the population participating in swimming in the past month. This is an extrapolation. So we're taking that number based on how many folks are swimming, and we're just applying it to your township. Next. One of the other things that we're doing is and must do is identifying competitive supply of aquatic facilities within this 15-minute market area. And why do we do that? Because you're creating a facility that is going to necessarily compete with other facilities, new and or old. And we want to know where they are, what are the amenities being offered, the services, the programming, all that good stuff. And so what we have here is that 15-minute area, and then you can see all of the identified public and private swimming facilities, indoor and outdoor, that we've identified, in that area. And we will also be, or actually, if you go to the next slide, please. I know this is hard to read, but in the report, it's probably a little bit easier. What we've done is with all those facilities, we've identified, the name of the facility, the municipal jurisdiction in which it's located. Is it publicly accessible, or is it, can I go swim at it? If it's a school, probably not. So we indicate that. Ownership, is it municipally owned, privately owned, school district owned? The drive time from the center point, because we want to know how far away is that facility. Obviously, the closer it is, probably the more competitive, all other things being equal. And then comparability, for what we mean by comparability is what it's offering in terms of relative to your facility. And that's where we look at, amenities. Does it offer for swim teams, swim lessons, lap pool, recreational pool, concessions, toddler pool, diving board, water slide, indoor fitness center, aquatic fitness, and therapy pool. So we're looking at all of the amenities and services and trying to distinguish what facilities will we consider competitive against what you have and maybe what you might have. So that's what's here. And all of this gives us a baseline. We're also, and having working with Ted Wallover, who's going to follow me, we've identified some case study facilities, which are outdoor swimming facilities, actually, majority of which Ted has worked on, because we want to have interviews with the operators or managers of those facilities to ask them about operating expenses, staffing, who's attending, what kind of amenities are they offering, what kind of services, lessons learned, all that, because we want to bring that into this analysis and have it inform ultimately what we recommend. So high level, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
That refers to the center point between the two pools, Susquehanna, Maple, that area.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard if we were dealing with one pool, that would be the center point, right? 15 minutes would go from there, but we had to pick. And so we went right between the two. It's everything that we found in that 15 minutes. So regardless of what it was. No. Why?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's probably their membership or private.
Right.
But there are a couple that.
Sure.
Very good ones.
Okay, sure. You know, send it our way. We try to capture as much as we could. Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So right now we'll go through the existing parks and pools, just looking at some of the existing features, what's there currently. So Penbryn is a little bit larger of a site at about 24 acres compared to Crestmont at 19. The pool complex itself at Penbryn is also a little bit larger. And then within those pool complexes, they're both very similar. So both complexes have a top pool, leisure pool, a lap and diving pool. In that diving pool is a slide. They both have bathhouses, and there's a swim team devoted to each pool. Programming wise, they're also pretty even. They both have basketball courts. Penbryn has more baseball, softball fields than Crestmont does. Crestmont just has the one. They both have the Gaga ball and currently tennis courts, soccer field, the playgrounds, and then the trails at Penbryn are a little bit longer. They are a little steeper there, but there's a little bit more of an opportunity there currently to walk. And then as far as the amenities go, also pretty even. Restrooms, the clubhouse, they both currently have ADA parking. And the standard parking, Crestmont has a little bit more at a total of 196. And then Penbryn is a little bit less. So looking at the aerial of Crestmont here, the different colors kind of are associated with the different amenities. So you'll see the parking in pink, the pool complex area in blue, our programming is in the orange, and then the circulation. So in the black dots is that those trails that I just mentioned. Currently there's the one at Crestmont that leads you kind of connects Rubicam Ave on both sides and also leads to the school. We heard that a lot of children use that trail on their way to school in the morning, so it's important to keep that intact. And there's currently only one sidewalk along Reservoir Ave. Also right now, the vehicular traffic through Crestmont, you can go from Old Welsh Road to Rubicam Ave, so it's you can drive right through the site. At Penbryn, it's more linear of a site. The pool complex is up at the top there. The colors are still reflect the same. So you can see the parking is spread out a bit. There's also through traffic coming from Edge Hill Road over out to Edgerton Ave. We've heard that that can be an issue where people kind of fly through the site a little bit. And yeah, you can see where there's the 3 baseball fields, and in the center below the pool is where a lot of the programming is focused. So looking at the pool complexes themselves, as I mentioned, they're both very similar, just a little bit of a different layout at each one. And you can see the sizes here. They're pretty much about the same size. The lap and diving pool are both about 5,000 square feet, and they're both 6 lanes. And just slight differences in the leisure pool size and the top pool size. The pool buildings themselves, the one at Penbryn is slightly smaller. And now I will head it over to Ted, who will join us virtually to go through some of his pool concepts.
Okay, thank you. Am I coming through?
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm going to spend a lot of time on these first couple of slides that we did. I mean, we basically did verify what was just covered by Devin. And again, this is the Crestmont site. It's a very dense development at the southwest corner of this area of the park. The majority of the parking is for the site is located somewhat distant from the existing pool complex, but the fact that there is a organized parking structure around the pool makes the current location of the pool really quite nice and appropriate. It also provides for a lot of vegetation between the pool and the noises associated with the pool and its surrounding neighborhoods. So from a planning standpoint, I think the pool was initially planned and located very well. Next slide. Let's go back to one. What we've done is we've looked at, our goal was to look at 3 different sites on the Crestmont property that could be developed for swimming. And with the Penbryn property, what we have found is that the current location of the pool really is logistically the most appropriate location to maintain swimming at the Crestmont Park. But in regard to the first option we put together, we have heard in all of our meetings so far a fairly vocal response from the swim teams and the folks that are involved with competitive swimming. So in a lot of these schemes, you're going to see a fairly strong focus on competitive swimming, and that is a direct result of the comments from both the Crestmont and the Penbryn families who have attended these meetings so far. This particular concept is really developed around the idea of a properly sized bathhouse, and I want to respond to the fact that the size of those bathhouse buildings will be determined by the current codes that the new pool will have to be designed to. They are much more stringent in terms of the amount of occupancy that's permissible in these pools than older codes, so that they're demanding more showers, more locker rooms, more lavatories, more water closets. With the more occupancy, the greater number of those amenities we have to provide in the concept. Basically, this concept is designed around a competition pool and then a separate leisure pool that could or could not have a lazy river incorporated into it. The lazy river is something that we find from a fun standpoint. Kids love them because they really do allow for a lot of different activities in there. But in terms of adults, water walking against the current is a great form of exercise. And both of these pools really are designed in such a way that the water surface area can be programmed into different functions: teaching smaller children, teaching older adults, exercise programs for older adults. So the whole idea of these pools really are focused around providing a series of differing aquatic activities. And if this, for example, was this particular concept 1, is assuming that we build 1 pool complex, not potentially 2. I think that's one of the things that we are really carefully trying to look at, because whether or not a community of this size can afford to build 2 complete functional swimming facilities is really a big question. And that's something the township supervisors will have to take into account. And the study will address the economics of whether or not 2 pools are built or 1 larger, more inclusive facility is developed for the township. This particular site is located along Walsh Road. It does have more visual access to the community as people were driving by the park. It is a situation where the pool is located in this application. If there is a large-scale event going on, swim meets, that noise generated by that won't be nearly as problematic for the mall parking lot or the street as it would be for adjacent residential properties. So that's one of the reasons we looked at this particular piece of property, this particular site, for future development. And the fact that it currently only houses the pond that's filled periodically for ice skating, it seemed to be a very reasonable location, again, with the correct or direct access to the larger parking field, and then with access directly over towards the clubhouse and some of the other heavily developed spaces. Next slide, please. Concept 2, we basically moved the pool 90 degrees away from the main parking lot. It still has the pool focused on that main parking field. But what it has done, it has moved the focus of the aquatic components closer to the main clubhouse. It allows for the lazy river and the components that are associated with that. This particular pool has 2 slides. It has a lazy river component, a large in-pool spa area, and seating areas for folks around the pool so that you can have spots for leisure and just general relaxation along with active leisure swimming. Again, the lazy river does provide for an additional type of function. And again, these are all things that can be either done as basis of design, or they can be discussed and developed as recreational components. Again, the ADA component with this particular pool will be a ramp situation that's like illustrated in the upper right-hand photograph. If the pools are designed properly with the NCAA compliant shells, 1 and 3 meter diving in today's marketplace can still be achieved. And so that's something we look at, because again, diving is repeatedly come back as one of the most requested activities in any swimming pool. But not having the proper depth profile on the base of the pool results in pools with water slides rather than diving boards. And that's basically what happened at both Penbryn and Crestmont, because of the profiles were not deep enough in front of the diving board plummet, and therefore diving was rightly removed from those pools. Next concept. This is placing of the pool complex on the existing site of the original pool. Again, this has a much larger focus on competition. This is a 25 meter by 25 yard pool, which is a larger water surface area, but it provides for far more lanes for training and competition. And if by chance there is a singular pool built for the township, having more lanes for that function very well might be a great compromise in terms of being able to use available funding as effectively as possible. But again, the whole idea of this is to really create spaces for the kind of programs that basically exist today, but updated to today's standards with different functions and new functions. Again, all of the water quality issues that are associated with swimming will be addressed in terms of proper turnover rates, proper sanitation. All of those things will be addressed in any design that comes forward. But the use of water slides and functional features that really attract people, these become really important generators for continued use of facilities. The next slide, please. This is Penbryn's existing pool site. This facility, as you can see, if you look at the diving well, it's a relatively short distance from the edge of the pool to where the racing lane starts. So that depth is really too short to produce a proper diving solution. So that's why the township rightfully decided to eliminate diving and use just the water slides in those locations. Next slide. We've looked at this a little bit differently, try to find a way that we could potentially, if we are doing a one pool complex, could this facility be done in such a way to handle both of the concerns that you have at Penbryn and the Crestmont pools. This one shows a little different concept in terms of beach access. The fan shapes allow for walking directly out of the pool to grade. So ADA compliance and accessibility to the pool has become a minimal concern. It provides for options for in-pool sunscreening and shading, as you see in the lower photograph. This one features a water play area. And water play areas can be developed in such a way that they can be fenced so that they are available to the public after hours and before hours of the normal pool operation. So that's something to consider. When they're open, they don't require lifeguards. They don't require extensive staffing to operate a water playground. So the water playground becomes a feature that might be able to be developed in the secondary park if a pool is decided to go into one location. So again, this is just another plan that shows a different orientation of how the pool might work. This, again, we're looking in terms of having a competition venue. The existing grades in this particular site do raise higher. along that vegetated area to the southeast of plan on this document. And this pool does have the capability of being expanded to an 8-lane tank. So if we wanted to make this pool larger, we could certainly do that within the confines of the area. Next slide, please. This is our concept, fifth and final concept that we've developed. And again, this is taking that particular area and putting a different shaped pool in, a beach access area, and then a full-blown competitive area within the same body of water. We have the options of doing a water spray area, or we could develop a shallower water teaching pool or tot area, not necessarily a wading pool or a baby pool, but something that's geared more towards teaching and exercise. And so we have plenty of flexibility in terms of the kind of features that each one of these pools can offer. But again, there was so much feedback that basically pointed us towards making sure we had that competition venue associated with both sites. That's the reason behind the strong focus on competition at both of these pools. And I think that's the last slide in our presentation.
Thank you, Ted. Now we'll start to take a look at some of the surrounding park complexes, so how those pools that Ted described can be incorporated into the entire site. And we will be introducing some new elements that aren't currently in the parks as possibilities. So one of them being an amphitheater, you can see in the top left. These can be designed to be very minimally impactful in the landscape, but serve great purpose when they're needed. Splash pad or water playground, as Ted mentioned, below that. And then pickleball courts on the right there. There we go. So I just want to go through the concepts before we really dive into them. And just want to remind you that these are loose. Think of them as bubble diagrams. Nothing is set in stone. They're not solid designs yet. So we can we've grouped them into 4 different concepts. So there's 8 total, but we're grouping them into 4 so we can kind of see how they compare together. Concept A will be the one singular pool complex at Crestmont with no complex at Pembroke. Concept B will be similar to how they are now, both pretty equal complexes. Concept C would be separating the competition and leisure pool. And then concept D would be the flip of concept A. So no pool at Crestmont and 1 pool complex at Pembroke. So just want to give you a quick overview or glance at what's existing. This is how Crestmont is currently laid out. And then, come on, oops. This is everything existing that we would be keeping in this concept. So your baseball and soccer field, basketball court, and the clubhouse remain the same. The pool area remains the same, and then the parking off of Walsh Road, also the existing circulation would all remain in place. So we would be adding some parking, going from, I think it was about 150-ish currently to 277 parking spaces. Mostly expanding the one off of Old Walsh Road and adding an additional lot off of Reservoir Ave. We've heard that some people can park along the street there when they're going to baseball games, which can make it a little cramped on the road. So we think adding a lot there could help ease that, and then formalizing more of the parking off of Rubicam. Also, we're cutting off the through circulation for vehicles within this concept.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
So the pad, they're moving, they're on a trail, that's supposed to stay?
Yes.
What about the side that comes from, what is that, Redwood?
Yes.
But that is also the area that are access to get to the.
Yeah.
That would be improved.
Mhm.
So you'll see how that ties. Okay.
Yeah. Keep pointing it the wrong way. Okay. So now we're showing some facilities that we would be adding or moving the location of. So below or above the basketball court, we would just shift the playground over to be a little bit more located around those other activities. And then moving the tennis court to be more of a pickleball complex. There's kind of more demand for pickleball. So having a good amount of courts there, and then also kind of giving a new layout to the ice rink, the seasonal ice rink that's currently in that location. And then also up in the wooded area, we are suggesting adding like a 9-hole disc golf course that could eventually be connected to the park across the street if the desire is there. So this last slide kind of adds in the full pedestrian circulation. We're really formalizing a loop around the entire site and connecting the different amenities to each other so that you can easily walk through the site, because right now that's pretty difficult to walk from, the parking lot at the top to the parking lot at the bottom. You're sort of walking on the road, so this will help to formalize everything. So now we'll move to Penbryn. Again, this is
Sorry. Can we hold all questions?
yeah, we'll have a summary. Yeah, thank you. So this is just the review of existing at Penbryn, that through traffic, the trail that's existing that kind of goes along that steep grade along the top, and all your complex or amenities kind of focused at the bottom. And the total parking here is about 143 spots. So this is everything existing that we would keep in place. Keeping part of that existing trail coming in from Edge Hill. And then we are planning to kind of put a break in the through traffic there, keeping a lot of the amenities along the bottom and the existing parking. Here's where we plan to add, we'll show for this concept a roundabout kind of centrally within the site to slow any through traffic, also adding some parking up in a flat area kind of in that wooded location to make it easier to get down to the soccer field, and then adding some parking off of Dumont for the easier access to the baseball field there. So since this concept is showing no pool at Penbryn, this is where we're kind of introducing the idea of an amphitheater, playground, and in place, we still want to keep a water feature maybe at the site. So this could show this like a splash pad shown in number 1, the amphitheater in number 9. And then maybe we also include like a picnic grove with some small pavilions, picnic tables, maybe some grills, number 10. So this also ups the parking a little bit to about 187 site spots. And then adding in the idea of a loop trail here as well. So kind of taking it off of that slope down to where the fields are, making it easier to access everything, and then connecting to the sidewalk off of Dumont, both at the southern and kind of the top edge off of Edgerton Ave. So just looking at both together, how they could pair together. Again, this is one large complex at Crestmont and a splash pad with like inclusive playground at Penbryn, along with a pavilion. Your parking spaces are added there. And then we're also formalizing and enhancing the pedestrian circulation. So now we'll move on to concept B. Just again, another reminder, this is what's existing there right now. And then this is everything that we would like to keep for this concept. So keeping the parking off of Old Walsh Road, keeping the baseball field where it is. Again, the clubhouse, we're not going to touch that. It's a pretty new building. And then the basketball courts. Here it's pretty similar parking to the last concept, except I don't think we're expanding the one off of Old Walsh Road. That'll remain the same. And then this is where we centralize that pool complex. We're separating the soccer and baseball field, moving the play over towards that soccer area. And then again, we also have the pickleball and ice rink in this concept as well. And then you can see the pedestrian circulation here kind of continues that loop trail. Consistently throughout each of the concepts is that trail off in the wooded area to just make that more of a destination and how everything else connects within the site. And then on to Penbryn. So again, existing. Everything that we plan to keep for this concept. So the pool would remain in the same location. Parking there off of Edgerton Ave would remain the same with the drop off there. Keeping the 2 baseball fields, soccer field, and the clubhouse in their locations. And then adding some parking here, expanding that central lot where it is currently, adding the parking off of in the flat area up underneath where it says Penbryn Park. And then this one, we also introduced some parking off of Edge Hill Road on the lower part of the site. And again, a bit of a larger parking area down by the baseball field off of Dumont. This also splits the vehicular circulation. So coming off of Edge Hill Road, it'll be one way in and creates a loop kind of around that parking. So you go back out to Edge Hill Road. On the southern end, the entrance is off of Dumont. So you come in and you can go into that parking area and then back out onto Dumont. And if you just need to do a drop off, you would come in off of Edgerton Ave, and there's some parking there for the pool. So this one shifts a lot of the courts and that seasonal ice rink that's currently there up to the northern end of the site, which ties to that parking that I introduced earlier. And then this also separates those 2 baseball fields to make them more usable throughout the season. And then the playground area would be kept kind of closer to the pool complex. So if parents need to go back and forth, that's a little bit easier to do. And then the pedestrian circulation here, again, kind of expanding on that loop trail. Since we kind of closed off that vehicular traffic in the center, we can maybe use those existing roadways as pedestrian trails now. The infrastructure is already there and the grading is already there, so it would be a good use for that. And pretty similarly, kind of connecting to the sidewalks off of Dumont and keeping that existing trail in from Edge Hill. So now I'll hand it off to Sarah so you can get a break from my voice and she'll go through the next 2.
Thanks, Deb. Yeah. So again, just a quick this kind of shows, so this was the idea of 2 similar pools having 1 in each park. So what I'm going to go over again, so here we're going to look at the idea of 2 pools, but we're separating a leisure pool into one park and then a competitive pool into the other. And that was kind of an idea that came up at one of the public meetings, that like each pool might have its own identity instead of having the exact same pool in each location. So again, Crestmont, the existing conditions. So what we would, did I skip ahead to, okay. Okay, there we go. So what we would be keeping, basically not touching the parking lot at Old Welsh Road, baseball field stays intact, basketball clubhouse still intact. Where we're changing circulation, one of the key things we wanted to look at here was to help with the trail system, taking that parking off of Ruacan Road, that pull-in parking, and kind of consolidating that all into the park. So since we're moving the pool in this concept, we have more room to kind of focus all the parking internal to the park off of Rubicam. And then also we wanted to look at parking down on Reservoir, but then the idea that maybe those 2 parking lots along Old Welsh have an internal road that connect them, right? So you can get from that 65 lot over to the 105 lot. So we are adding more parking. We're above 200 here. And then looking at the new facilities, again, since we've relocated the pool, so this is where we're looking at kind of that pool being along Old Welsh Road that Ted showed in one of his concepts. That opens up that existing pool space to move the soccer field. So again, you pick up the advantage of separating your two fields with this concept. And then also looking at that idea of a pickleball court complex. So instead of just having tennis courts with pickleball put on top of it, really dedicating an area for a group of 6 or 8 pickleball courts to function for larger play groups. And then also, again, having that playground relocated central to the site so it relates to a lot of activities within the park. And then last, as we start to look at how circulation plays out. So again, really looking at how to form loops. So you kind of have that woodland loop over connecting the neighborhoods to the park. And then you kind of have your park loop that connects all your amenities. And again, these trails could be nice, wide, generous trails. So they would function for joggers, strollers, little kids on tykes, a focus towards kind of neighborhood trail use, not necessarily regional trail use, even though they do fit into that regional neighborhood bike lanes. Looking at Penbryn Park, so again, our existing conditions. Here, we're looking at the idea of, again, separating that through traffic. Did I skip 2? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So again, keeping the existing parking lots off of Edgerton as well as that central parking lot. But again, we're going to look at how we could separate through traffic through the park as a concept. Here, we're keeping a lot of the facilities in the same location, though we are looking at tennis potentially being relocated. So then again, really looking at this large area up at the top near the soccer fields where there's been a lot of tree dieback. It's a very large open area. It almost looks like it was a quarry at one point. So that lends itself well to parking. And then again, kind of that idea of a drop-off loop. So in this concept, you kind of have 2 drop-off loops for the pool area that both have large parking areas associated with them. And then here looking at, again, the idea of maybe you develop a group of pickleball courts all together and then relocating the playground slightly. And then again, how that circulation ties in. So using kind of the upper end of the existing trail, but when it gets to the parking lot, having it cross the road and come down along the soccer field and formalizing that circulation path a little bit more so that we're not going down the steep slope that leads to the clubhouse currently. But then also continuing some trail networks that would loop around the baseball fields as well to kind of get more of a loop trail system going and getting you to all the different amenities. Oops, sorry. So again, we have our 2 concepts. So this was focused on the idea that at Crestmont, you might develop more of a competition level pool. So that would be kind of oriented towards Welsh Road. And then at Penbryn, really focusing on a leisure pool concept with a high focus on accessibility, which would be in any pool we do, in all honesty, but maybe kind of really looking at creative ways to make the pool very approachable for all abilities and ages. Okay. And then our final one, so this is the concept where we look at just a pool in Penbryn and no facility at Crestmont. So again, looking at what we would keep, really kind of keeping parking both ends of the park, removing the pool, keeping baseball and basketball clubhouse in the same location, adding a little more parking again down on Reservoir to capture parking in the park and kind of take it off the neighborhood roads. And then you kind of start to open up this wide space in the middle of the park. Again, we're able to kind of relocate the soccer field so that it becomes separate from the softball, baseball field. Again, looking at the idea that maybe we look at an open amphitheater in this area, kind of a lawn amphitheater, and then making sure that we look at a splash pad in this park to kind of still maintain water playground, but then also relocating our traditional playground. And then again, that idea of pickleball courts or in a ice rink facility. One of the things we kind of talked about with the public, and we don't have good pictures of this, we'll have to find them as we proceed, but there's a trend in ice rinks where you can maintain ice year round, no matter what the temperature is outdoors. And a lot of people, or a lot of communities are looking at combining that with splash pads. So there's manufacturers that offer splash pads that can be converted to ice rinks in the winter season. So that's something that we might want to consider if ice skating is really an important amenity we want to keep within one or both of these parks. So moving along to how Penbryn would play out. Sorry if I can get some help with the slides. Okay, perfect. So existing conditions. So what are we removing or moving in the park on the next slide? So again, we're going to look at how we might change that circulation through the park. We are keeping the two baseball fields together and pretty much maintaining existing parking. And then where we're trying to add some parking. So we do want to make sure if we're going to separate circulation. So again, we're looking at 2 drop-off loops from either end here. We're really expanding that central parking lot to 120 over the existing tennis courts. And then also adding parking up in the northern end of the park as well, so that if you're coming in that direction, there's ample parking if you're using the soccer facilities or even coming all the way down to the pool. And then here again, that pool becomes a more central site between the 2 parking lots. So again, you can kind of approach it from either side. Still relates well to the clubhouse area. And then again, kept that kind of playground area down central to the park. So it relates to the pool and the baseball fields well. But then looking at moving the pickleball and basketball courts up into that northern wooded area of the park where we kind of have that small parking lot up to serve those facilities. And then last, again, how that circulation would be kind of rerouted to work and kind of meet all those facilities. So again, looking at them side by side, you're seeing, what gets added to Cresmont if you remove a pool facility, kind of options for what could be added there. And then at Penbryn, if you have that larger one community pool, we got to expand the footprint just slightly to kind of get that larger pool in. And that really starts to change the circulation and kind of forces you to start to divide the circulation to get that larger pool area in. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Toby and he's going to take us through the end, and then we're going to save time to go through everyone's questions. We'll clarify questions and then take feedback. And we can go back to any slide in the presentation.
So can you believe there's more to do after all of that? So once again, just reviewing where we are in the grand scheme of the redevelopment of the pools. We're still very early in the process. This is just, we're currently in the pool feasibility plan. This plan will be finished in November of this year, right around budgeting time, so that we can start to really think about securing funding over the next year. And the township can really pursue those grants. There are matching funds on hand, but additional funds will be necessary. So that's the next year's activity. Then once the funding has been secured for design and engineering and permitting, that process can start in 2028, looking towards construction to start in the fall of 2029, to then have a new pool facility open in time for spring of 2030. Now, none of that is for sure. This is a very conservative development timeline. It may take longer than this, depending on how the permitting and funding securing the funding goes. It may be that miracles happen and everything is constructed by the end of 2029 season. That would be pretty miraculous, but miracles do happen sometimes. I see Jess having some deep thoughts on that for sure. But this is just to give you a sense of where we are in the process. There are a lot of steps to follow this, but we are well on our way towards making these pool concepts into a reality. Speaking of that funding, just looking, we've started to look at kind of the order of magnitude costs. These are not, we haven't itemized the cost based on square footage of concrete and asphalt. We're just really looking at what do we think big round numbers would be for these pools. Concept A and D, as you can see here, which are the single pool complexes, are somewhat more affordable. They are not cheap. I'm not going to tell you that they are inexpensive, but they are more affordable options than constructing two brand new pools facilities at both parks. Those really are the top tier in terms of the expense that would be necessary for those. So as we develop these concepts further and through the process of really finalizing these concepts, we will be developing more concrete cost estimates for these. We just want to make sure that you know that money is going to be spent and money will be needed. So the next opportunity for you all, I know we're going to be hearing your feedback and your thoughts, your initial thoughts on these concepts as soon as I stop talking, whenever that happens. But the next opportunity is really going to be this online survey. And this is a great way for us to really hear your thoughts about each of these concepts individually and really give you a chance to think on these concepts that you've seen today for a longer period of time. We unfortunately we were hoping to get the survey ready to launch today. Unfortunately, we've had a few hiccups in that process. So we are hoping that it will launch in about the next week. But there's a QR code here on the screen, and you will also have it on the agenda that you picked up when you came in that you can scan to access that survey. It shouldn't be more, it should take, right now, SurveyMonkey estimates it'll take you about 13 minutes to answer all of the questions that are in the survey. Really gives you an opportunity to share what your ideas are about these concepts and make sure that this plan really matches what you want to see from the pools as closely as possible. We also have another public meeting. As I mentioned, we'll be back here again in September 23rd to talk about the finalized concepts that we have based on the feedback we get from you tonight and from that public opinion survey. So please, the more opinions we get in that public opinion survey, the better. So share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, share it with everyone in your household so each person can fill it out and share their thoughts. The more opinions we get, the more thoughts we hear from you, the more closely this will really match what you want to see for your pools in the future. So the more you can spread the word, the better this project will be. And we really appreciate your help in that process as well. Make sure you do get the word out about the meeting. I see a lot of familiar faces that we saw from our first public meetings. We hope we'll see you again for the final results so we can share what we've come up with you then. That there will be more information forthcoming as that date approaches. I know that summer is long and there's a lot of opportunities to forget that September 23rd is happening. So we'll be sure to remind you as we get into the fall. So here's just a quick review again of the schedule. Right now we're on public meeting 2. We're going to have one more advisory committee meeting coming up at the end of the summer before we have our public meeting for you all in September. And then we're going to put that draft plan out for public review, the public review period. Following that meeting, it'll be a 45-day public review period where the plan will be posted online for you to provide comments on the plan again there. And then we'll hone that for the final plan review presentation in November for the Board of Commissioners. And with that, I want to thank you all for listening to us talk. We're going to switch over now and give you all the opportunity to share your thoughts about what you've seen tonight. I'm going to transition back over to the computer so that we can get some opinions from folks online. We've got as many people online as we do here in the room today, which is really exciting. And I'll let Sarah take over the mic here.
Perfect. So we'll start with audience first, and I think a lot of people probably want to share feedback. So we'll try to kind of go around, get your first initial questions, comments, and then once we kind of get through the room, we'll take some questions from online, and then we can kind of circle back. But we're doing good on time, so we're hoping to hear feedback. So don't be shy. If you have a question, okay, right in the front here. I think we have a microphone for you.
I don't think it makes sense to have a recreational pool at one location and a lap pool at another, because one of the pluses of the Abington pool system is that an entire family can go and meet all their needs. So I just don't understand why we would separate it and not have each complex be comprehensive.
No, that's a very valid feedback. We were just exploring all the potential ideas. Jess, you had
In concepts D and D, on the Pembroke layout.
Mhm.
It seemed like the existing parking lot and the parking lot that you were gonna create coming off of Edge Hill, they don't connect. So I guess Pembroke being the facility that kind of have the most parking
Mhm.
challenges, I'm just curious as to, how that would work if you're coming in off of Edge Hill and the parking lot's full, and then you can go back out and go around.
Right.
Edge Hill to come in off of Edge.
So I think, the one where it probably works the best is in concept B, where we were able to really allow the northern end of the park to function for just soccer and amenities up in the northern end of the park. So if you're coming in that way, you're really going to the soccer field, or you're going to do basketball and those amenities. And then we really were able to kind of maximize parking down at the baseball fields and at the pool. So we're putting we're putting more parking down there that you wouldn't need to go to those northern parking lots if you were going to the pool. So at that point, you kind of redevelop your habits, and you, depending on what you're doing in the park, you go to the specific entrance. It gets a little trickier with something like concept D, where we need that extra space in the middle to put that larger single community pool, right? So that's where we kind of have to start to think, is Penbryn a viable site if we're doing one large community pool, right? Because then you really do have that situation where either we have to lose something so that we can connect those two parking lots, maybe because you're getting really tight in with all those fields. Now, if it really is the best location and that's the concept we want to pursue, then it's our due diligence to be like, okay, can we create that connection from one side to the other? Or do we try to look at something like concept, like we have to massage it. But we wanted to make sure we kind of explored, like, is it livable? Could we have two parking areas? And are they large enough that, I think on Edgerton, on concept D, we still have 70 plus, I don't know if someone can read that smaller number. So we probably have about 100 spaces off of Edgerton, and then we have 150, it looks like, or maybe 120 off of the roundabout circle. So that's still a lot of parking down in that area from both sides. I'm going to go in the front first. I think I saw your hand first. Yeah, so online people can hear.
Yeah, hi, Lauren Caskey, just following up on Jesse's comment about the parking. Houston, Egerton, Dumont, I think that neighborhood, it's a little one-way streets. And putting all of the pool traffic all summer long through that neighborhood is probably going to be a concern to those neighbors. Also, I think you want most of the traffic coming in off of Edge Hill, the main road, and that also would be suitable for ambulances and quick access to the hospital.
Okay, those are all valid comments.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. Like, it's not terrible if you could connect that lower lot with the upper lot, because otherwise you're still running into the same problem. Like she was originally saying, if you come in and that lot's full, you then have to exit again and go through the neighborhood to come back into another entrance. And that for sure will happen, because that top lot that you have, and then the second lot that's in the other concepts that I'm not even going to address. We're just going to talk about the one where there's two pools. For those two fill.
Sorry, can I just pause for a second? Don't think about these as all finite concepts. If you like the circulation on concept A, say you like the circulation on concept A, but you like the pool on concept B.
No, I like, yeah, sorry. I like the lot, like that, I'm just saying.
But you can mix and match them is what I'm getting at.
We have right now, I'm just like, there's the top lot, there's the middle lot, and then there's the lower lot. So in all of them, like, it kind of eliminates one of the three, so it's hard to really explain, but normally those top two will fill, and then the bottom lot that's down closer to like the baseball fields is an overflow still for the pool, and people walk all the way up around the clubhouse and back to the pool entrance. But now you've kind of separated all three of those, and there's separate entrances for all of them in that, like in all of the concepts. So if there was a way to connect.
Concept A still keeps them all connected, and you could still look at a pool in concept A is what I'm getting at. So, we tried to look at all the different variations of how can we slow down traffic. So concept A keeps it connected, but puts in a traffic circle as a drop-off point to slow people down.
Okay.
Concept B, C, and D look at different ways we might separate them
Gotcha.
and where you could add parking. So to
Okay.
be clear, when we separate the traffic, we're adding parking in all the areas to some degree. We're not keeping the existing
Okay.
number so that we can, but I hear everybody loud and clear that end of the day, keeping a connection through is probably really important.
Yeah.
Just to add, I live on Edgerton, and it is not easy. That if also not shown here, and I understand its initial concepts is where the main entrance of the pool would be
Mhm.
in any of the concepts. I imagine I think concept B, where there's a similar pool at each facility, is going to be probably the community's favorite, just because it's kind of close to what we currently have. But without the through pathway of the parking. And knowing where that pool, I'm assuming if it is B, the pool entrance would be in the same spot. But it's unclear. Like I'm going to say from an accessibility standpoint. So say I had to park in, if it's not a throughway, and you have to park in one lot. So say I have to drop my son off,
Mhm.
and there's no parking, then I have to drive all the way around somewhere else.
Mhm.
I'm not in the same parking lot anymore.
Yeah, and I think with that concept, if you're looking at concept B, the thought was all the parking off of Edgerton would probably be your ADA parking.
Yeah.
With a little like drop-off parking. And so that again, really trying to direct people to what we've expanded as a much larger parking central to the site. So that was kind of the thought. But again, we're hearing it loud and clear.
Concept A's throughway, I think,
Yeah.
is probably going to be from I knowing the neighborhood, this is going to be the most popular. So I think keeping that connection is highly important, because it's not easy to get from one end of the park. It is a larger park. It's very long.
Mhm.
It's not easy to get from one end to another end. So people going to baseball games and soccer games are already going to be on edge trying to find parking, and then they're going to run into the one-way streets on Edgerton, Dumont, and Houston, and it's just
Mhm.
going to frustrate them even more. So.
Right. Understood.
I'm just also throwing in something about the parking. If we collapse into one facility having the competitive, one facility having leisure, let's say it lands at Pembroke. Have you ever been to Pembroke on the night of a swim meet?
I have, yeah.
It's bananas. I mean, my kids swam for Crestmont. My daughter, she now's a guard at Crestmont, and we've been at the pools for years. Of course, we're all going to have like an emotional tie to this. We have to be, fiscally sound, but you also have to think about safety, because a busy night at Pembroke, you have pickleballers, you have basketballers, you have swimmers, and parking already, even with like the amount that you're proposing to add, it's not going to be enough. And especially if you don't have that throughway, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
that's,
I don't have little kids anymore, but like seeing these ideas with like little kids running through the parking lot, it's potentially really an issue of safety.
right. And that's why we explored the separating, right? Because that takes those conflicts out of play. That's what you get by separating the through traffic, is you now can open that area to a pedestrian zone where people can get from the parking lot to all the amenities without having to cross a road. So that's one of the reasons why we're not looking at the separation to make people's lives harder. We're looking at it to create safe pedestrian access through the park, because it's very tricky to do that today with the slopes and the current circulation. Going back to your question about, so when we look at which separating the two pools, we specifically didn't recommend the swim club approach or the competition pool for Penn because of the lack of being able to add significant parking. Crestmont can handle that load of parking much better for competitive swim meets than Penn can. So that was why we looked at Penn for the leisure site and Crestmont for the competitive. Obviously, that has the drawback of you're separating the two things, which obviously people have already expressed they don't like that idea, but just that was why we kind of picked the one versus the other for the specific parks.
And one question about the amphitheater. Is this going to be something that is going to be accessible whenever, if for everybody? Or is this going to be open only and accessible only during scheduled events?
No, so when we look at, and I think we showed an example of, it's Wilson Farm Park in Tredyffrin. So the idea with developing an amphitheater within a public park is that it needs to kind of function during the day. It needs to be a nice place where you might just want to sit and have lunch or have a picnic. So it's very open, a natural lawn area. You have that natural slope in Penbryn that really would lend itself well to that. And then sometimes you even see with some developments, the idea that maybe that stage, instead of being a raised plaza, could be a lowered plaza, and maybe that becomes your splash pad area so that it has activity in it during non-events even, so that it becomes a focal point in the park. But that's really kind of the idea. The size of the plan we showed on the park is very similar to the size of what you're seeing there. This is a really generous amphitheater that on a community event, this is packed and easily holds a couple hundred people for a community scale event. So maybe when we're looking at the two parks, like Crestmont obviously already hosts community events. Maybe it would be better suited if an amphitheater is something people want to look at for a larger amphitheater. But even within Penbryn, maybe it's not going to hold a community event, but maybe it's a neighborhood scale event, right? So you're looking at kind of a size, maybe sizing it down a little bit, but it really does have the natural land that would really start to take advantage of that slope up against the existing pool. In front here.
The community center,
Mhm.
but it's not necessarily community events. It's people using it for showers and different things like that. Can you show me where Crestmont's parking is better? Because living there, I don't see it.
Okay. So we'll go to the Crestmont concepts. So yeah, the clubhouse, we definitely get that that's more, rent things. Sorry, if we can go back one. Look at that. Okay, perfect. So what we wanted to be cognizant of is that along Rubicon, you have the pull-in parking right now off of Rubicon, and then you have the formal parking lot, which is pretty small. So in all the concepts, we're trying to kind of formalize the parking lot kind of between number 2 and 5, if you're looking at like concept C, enlarging that a little bit. But then also when you're looking at some of the other concepts, there's places like you'll see at concept A, we're actually adding a whole nother bay of parking that starts, and we're moving the tennis courts, right? So we're expanding the parking over the tennis courts and relocating the tennis courts. Right now, where the tennis courts are located in Crestmont, they kind of really constrict your parking layout. That's why there's kind of the parking so far away from the pool, and then you have this little tiny lot that's kind of opposite the tennis courts, and then you kind of have your small lot up near the clubhouse. So we're trying to kind of make sure we're maximizing parking all in one spot and getting the pool closer to that parking where we can. So like in concept B, again, we're not necessarily adding parking at Rubicon, but we are maintaining the existing parking to function for the clubhouse, but then we're adding parking kind of down below and then adding parking along Reservoir as well. So where you have like 190 today, all these concepts at the very least are showing 215 on concept C. We could easily up that parking a little bit if we needed to. Again, this is just concept level. Once we start to actually come up with what we want the design to be, we'll make sure the parking fits the design, right? So once we know the size of the pool, we can figure out how many parking spots need to be there for the pool. We know we have a baseball field and a soccer field. We can calculate how many parking spots you need to flip a game over and start to look at it that way. Are we going to get all the parking we need? No, these are existing parks that have a lot of facilities placed in them, but there's definitely places where we can expand parking. No, so we're moving the parking on Reservoir into the park to take sports people off the street, right? So like in each of these concepts, and I don't know if someone can read one of the numbers to me. Sorry, just on Reservoir, just those little lots. Yeah. So like in this lot and here, those are all at least 50 cars at a minimum. So that's taking all this on-street parking that sports people are parking on and taking up residential parking and moving that into the park so that that opens it back up for residents to park on the street. Yes. 1 second, if you can use the microphone.
When you say leisure pool, how deep is a leisure pool?
It can vary. It could have diving in it. It could, I don't know, Ted, do you want to talk to that? Okay, so a leisure pool might still have diving, it might still have slides, so you would need that profile in the deep end to accommodate those. What it wouldn't have would be, like, it might even have 2 swim lanes, right? But it's not going to have a competitive tank where you have 8 to 6 lanes, right? So when we talk about a leisure pool, it's really focused on just community. The depths of the water would be focused on play, fitness, recreation. It would be kind of a depth, like 5 feet, I think is 4 to 5 feet is what you need for like an aqua class. So kind of looking at those types of depths, but you would still have that tank for slides and diving. Sorry, and then we'll come over to you.
Sorry, before we get too far from it, I wanted to make a comment regarding parking.
Mm-hmm.
I live on Rubicam.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that you're going to take the parking that is currently on Rubicam that's within the park and get rid of that.
Centralize it all into the internal parking lot so that people aren't backing up into the road.
Okay, so this is my observation, is that doing that is really not going to make a difference. And I'm going to give you an example. On swim team nights, when they have swim meets at the pool, every single parking space is filled within the park complex. Every side of the street on the residential Rubicam, both sides, the no parking zones, down Reservoir and into the mall are all utilized for parking. So even though I see that you are increasing parking to 215 in one concept, 246, 250, 277, that's where we're at right now. And I think that if
you're at 190 right now.
I'm saying as far as that's the number of spots, but the number of cars that come.
Right.
And I think if you move to a 1 pool leisure competition, that's going to create even more. Because now you have a larger team, more people, and essentially, as you said, you double the number of participants.
So there are options where just because you have 1 pool, it doesn't mean you can't have 2 teams. An 8-lane tank is large enough for 2 teams to have practices at the same time, but then you can have the swim meets on different nights. It is an option to consider, but if 2 teams are really important to the community. The only reason why, again, looking at that pull-in parking along Rubicam, if you wanted to get a loop trail in the park, that parking has to disappear. So that's the only reason why. And it's also, typically it's not safe to have people backing up into a roadway, even though this is kind of a terminus road, so you don't have high speeds. But again, so I think the parking refinements will get a lot more refined as we go into the next step. We just wanted to explore ideas of, like, wanted to hear, oh, no way could you put parking down here because that's right across from my house. We want to hear like that types of things. Like, are we putting parking in the wrong space? Totally understand the number of parking spots are really important. So we'll take a look at like how many people can actually park along here, even if they're parking illegal, to get an idea of the numbers now. Can you give her the microphone back, please? That's okay.
People don't want to walk. There can be empty parking spaces in the parking lot. And I guarantee you, if I have to come home from work and have to park in front of my house, I don't have a parking spot. So people don't want to walk. So if you put parking further away from the pool entrance, they're not going to use it.
No, our goal is to put the pool as close to the parking as we can.
Okay.
Clear on that. But yeah, no, I understand that. And we're not going to solve all the parking problems, but we're going to do our best job to really make sure parking is appropriate for the facilities, that it doesn't dominate the park. The last thing we want to do is put 300 spaces in because we think we need 300 spaces. That's going to affect your park. But we definitely understand the concerns.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have a quick conversation about the split competition and leisure pool design at the two different parks would be, what would the competition pool be used for during the day when there isn't a competition? Because wouldn't that then drive all the recreation to Pembroke and then create an overflow issue at Pembroke? And then I know the competition,
Yeah.
you said if you have two separate teams, you could split it up.
Mhm.
But it sounds to me then you would just be doubling the amount of aggravation during the week for the residents at Crestmont if you had to have two separate swim meets. Now you're just doubling the number of events over the summer. But
Understanding. And I think, so the competition pool would still be open for lap swimming. So people that are really focused on
the
fitness swimming,
part,
it would
okay.
be open for that use. It would also open up programming for high school swim teams, things like that, to kind of be in there more and not having to work around, recreational swimming. It would also, depending on the design of that competition pool, like if you can remove diving from the competition pool, now you can develop a shallow competition pool that might lend itself to programming for aquatic fitness classes. So there's definitely ways you can fully program both pools.
And just this sparked my memory when you mentioned diving. It was mentioned earlier that there's no diving at Pembroke.
I
Okay.
think just to collect what he was saying, the high board had been removed
Yes,
because of the
okay.
profile.
Yeah.
I
There-
think
There's
yeah.
still a diving board,
Yes.
just not.
No, we understand that
Okay,
there's diving
yeah,
at
yeah.
both pools. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Jess actually, can we go to this gentleman here? And then, I'll take Jess's comment and then we'll go online.
Okay, I have a couple questions first.
Mhm.
So how would the competition pool be different than our current big pools currently?
So if you look at, and I don't know if someone can quickly go to the existing pool site. So right now at each pool concept, you kind of have what we call the competition pool, which is L-shaped. So it has, 6 lanes, I believe, in each pool. And then you have the L, which is your diving well, right? So that is traditionally a competition pool. I'm sure during the day, plenty of kids are swimming in it and having fun in it. The leisure pool, I don't know the depths of your leisure pools, but they're the
2 feet to
separate
3.5.
lanes. 3.5. Okay, so they're more shallow. They're really geared at just swimming and playing, and maybe can be programmed for aquatic classes. And then you have your top pools. So when we're talking about, when Ted was going through his concepts, so here's a great image. So, you're looking at this is your competition pool, and then this is your leisure pool, right? Obviously, they both get used during open swim nights and things like that.
Sarah, that happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really does. The idea of using a competition pool for recreational swimming, it happens all the time, just as you currently are doing it. So during the day, you're going to have that normal use for kids swimming, playing, having fun, just depending upon how you want to do it. Your comment about taking a diving well out and doing just depth for starting blocks, it does produce more shallow water, which does allow for more recreational use. So, I mean, these are all things that we can design around. And these comments have been great because it's giving us some feedback in terms of what really is important in terms of how the pools are designed.
Mhm.
But the 3.5 to 4 feet depth for most leisure pools is very common. And then a competition pool, to be safe, has to go from 4 feet to 2 meters. 2 meters under the starting block and out for 20 feet. Then it slopes up a 3-to-1 to a 5-foot depth, and then 5 foot to 4 foot. The kids have to turn on a minimum depth of 4 feet in order to avoid hitting their heads on the bottom in the kick turn.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I have a couple more, honestly.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm not getting is, what's the point of the competition pool? Because swim team's done end of July at both pools. So during our swim meets, it would also just be what we already have, and you're just taking that more.
Yeah.
Really understand. If we go to one pool, I work at both pools, so the people don't change pools.
Mhm.
Like if the Pembroke people go to Pembroke, Crestmont go to Pembroke. If Pembroke's a swim meet, the Pembroke people do not go to Crestmont and vice versa. They just don't go to the pool that night. That's just kind of how it is. See, like that's how I was growing up. Yeah, but you just don't go to the other
It
pool.
might not be a popular option. We just needed to explore how you make the pools, because there's really no other way you're going to make the pools different. They're either going to be equal, or they're going to be in one place, or you separate the two uses.
See, but I think if you separate the two pieces, it's just gonna because they're still not gonna really switch. It's just tradition at this point. You're not. They're both so separate that you're just taking away a lot of stuff that Pembroke has and putting it at Crestmont, taking away stuff that Crestmont has and putting it at Pembroke.
Understood.
Ultimately, this is going to be a decision for the township supervisors to make that call. I mean, we can make all the recommendations we can in terms of how to design the facility, but it's really based upon the financing of these two pools. Because when you're talking about building a municipal pool that meets all the needs for both the competitive swimmer and the leisure swimmer, you're going to have something very similar at both facilities, and they're both going to be relatively costly to develop fully. So, I mean, we're going to flesh all of this out for you. And as we go through the next step in the design process, we're going to try to take all these comments and come up with a singular solution that basically works for both sites.
Did you have additional?
Yeah, one last thing, sorry. No, so my one last thing is, so with the competition pool, what's truly the point? Because it's not going to be lane lines all day, because not that many people swim laps outside like 11 hours during the hour long. So you're just basically having the same exact thing, but just taking it away. You're not like up changing it in Crestmont. All you're doing is just taking it away from adding anything new to that point.
Ted, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I'm sorry, he was breaking up, so I didn't hear everything.
So just to repeat the question, so if we're
Please.
separating the two uses, how does that competitive pool get programmed for the full season if the swim clubs are only operating through July?
I mean, that's up to the rec director and the programming in terms of the kind of things that they do. I mean, the reality of the fact is that as the pools are currently being used, they're still programmed. Their kids are still swimming when there's not swim team going on. Those pools are being used. So I think the reality of it is that, these are the old traditional pools. And if we're talking about the leisure pools of the day with a lot of curves and a lot of in-pool benches and different kind of fun features that are being done in a lot of municipal pools that don't focus on competition, that's really the real difference. It's a shallower pool. It's just geared more for folks to relax and swim, learn how to swim, or in fact, as we mentioned earlier, the adult exercise classes and things of that nature that really require a little bit deeper water than like 3.5 feet. You'd like that 3.5 to 5 feet depth for those kind of classes for different folks of different heights. But I mean, that really is a programming issue in terms of how the pool is set up and what kind of things the rec directors come up with in terms of activities for the kids. So I think, the fact that you have a rectangular shaped pool, which has been the tradition for the last 50 or 60 years, if we're going to be maintaining competitive swimming in those pools, that format has to be there in some capacity. So that's the reason why. I mean, and we heard very clearly in these initial meetings that laps or competitive swimming is very important to both pools.
Yeah. So, and just to add on to that, like we understand the challenges between separating them, but the idea is the hardest concept to develop will be 2 equal pools in each park, because that is a major financial uplift that the township has to plan for. They currently have approximate funding in place that can start to address 1 pool. So that's a major uplift. So we've tried to look at a concept where we could keep swimming in both parks, but maybe have it come in at a more approachable cost. So that's the goal and why we're exploring this concept, but we hear you. It might not be a popular concept, and we understand that. We're going to take a few questions online because we have people that are patiently waiting online, and then we'll come back to the front here.
All right. I see Amy Kleinschmidt has her hand raised, so I'm going to allow you to talk. And if you can unmute yourself, please go ahead and ask your question once you've unmuted yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. So one thing I think, if you separate the pools, you're separating the kids, because a lot of kids go to the pool, they ride their bikes. Like, I grew up going to the pool. My kids now go to the pool with their friends. So I think if you have one pool, like, kids from Abington can't ride their bikes over or walk over to Crestmont. Kids from Crestmont can't ride their bikes or walk over here. It's too far. I think with the survey, it should be posted at the pool so people who do go to the pool can see it and know it's aware of it. Because I knew nothing about this. Yeah, I knew nothing about this. And for the people doing laps, I go to the pool all the time and I see a handful of people, like the population of people that do laps. Like, I understand for the swim team, but for that hour swim, like how many people are in that pool? Like, I just want to know, like, the data on that. That seems like, like whoever answered to these surveys, it seems like they're people that don't go to the pool.
Yeah. So just to be clear, the survey is not open yet. These preliminary concepts are based off of the first two meetings, feedback we received. The survey will be opening within the week. There are links to it on the township website, and then we will be planning events at both pools to kind of have some interactive surveys with the kids, as well as making sure we get the next meeting information and survey information posted at both pools as well.
Yes, and then another thing, if like with the traffic with Pembroke, the light by CVS and the light by Jack Frost and the car wash, sorry, my dog's barking. They're horrible. It's going to cause so much backup in all the neighborhoods. They're poorly timed. Like, I think that's going to be another issue if it's only one way in, one way out. Like, that is going to be a big issue.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, and I also see John P. has his hand raised, so I'm going to allow you to talk. I'm going to ask you to unmute, John, and then you can ask your question and share your thoughts.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So I'm looking from this from, I want to give a little background. I've lived in this area for 6 years. I grew up swimming. I'm a competitive swimmer. Parents were swim coaches. So I moved out to the area 5 to 6 years. I'll give a little quick anecdote. I brought my parents from Bucks County out to this area, and they're jealous that we have access to 2 pools, and the pools are split. I have no issue with the current pool setups or location between Pembroke and Crestmont. I actually like the 2 setups. The only thing I would adjust is more access for the little ones, the top pool, upgrading that to be more of a tapered swimming area. But looking at the pool concepts, and I'm only speaking toward the pool areas, is a lot of the concepts, it's a lot of concrete. And if you look at Crestmont and Pembroke, it's a lot of grass and not a lot of concrete. And, we get cold winters, hot summers, and we get cracking. And I'm looking more for the people around here, the longevity and aesthetics. Yeah, these renderings look beautiful, but after 3 years, you get a crack, the crack grows, and then we're kind of stuck with that. The giant sliding board, I'm trying to question, like, how did you guys arrive at like what do you call it? Like a wandering river? And my other question is, why can't these spaces be dual year round, almost like in New Jersey or in other areas where they have those inflated domes and use those spaces as dual as income generators for the area?
Because they really aren't income generators, unfortunately. The cost associated with taking up and putting down a dome is extremely expensive. I mean, a lot of the stuff that's going on right now really is going to end up being income driven and expense driven. So we really are trying to, and again, let me just share this. Those concepts are very much schematic. As these pools get designed and physically developed, those deck areas are going to be minimized. The amount of space is going to be tightened up. It's going to become much more dense in terms of the use of the space so that we can create, I'm hearing loud and clear, we have to create more space for parking. So if we can tighten up some of these things, make a lesser impactful footprint for the pool complex and provide more additional space around those pools for circulation, both vehicular and pedestrian, I think it's going to be a home run. So that's something I'm hearing tonight that's very, very important to me, is that we need to make sure that we can maximize the amount of space available for parking without impacting all the other functions in the park.
But my other question was there a behavioral study of that's currently being used? Like, ideally, would you do studies on swim team night and see cars and see the hectic it is, and then what spaces are underutilized or are basically dead spaces? Was there a study, and was that shown to the community?
No, because we really haven't had a chance to see the pool in operation yet. Memorial Day was just a couple of weeks ago. So,
but then you're sending a study in September, so you really have 3 months.
We will be evaluating and reviewing the facility over the summer, and as we develop these final concepts, we will have had a chance to see the operations of the pools and how they do function. But we have not had a chance to see that yet. I need to get the schedule for the events we'd love to be able to see, an event at Penn Brent and an event at Crestmont, so we can physically witness what you guys are talking about, because we have not seen it yet.
Right, but I understand that. It seems like you're reversing the design process and presenting concepts combination without doing any research.
Yeah. So the point of these studies tonight, they're not concepts. They're sharing ideas that we can understand what people like and don't like. Again, none of these are a final design. They're a way of exploring how things relate to each other from a space point of view. And you know what, like maybe some people, I saw eyes light up with the idea of a lazy river. You question whether or not that's really something the township should invest in. That's the type of feedback we want tonight. It's not that pool number 2 is the pool that's going to get built, if that kind of makes sense. So there's still plenty of time. During the summer, we're conducting multiple key person interviews where we're going to meet with pool staff. So hopefully you'll be there, sir. We'll be meeting with township staff. We'll be meeting with emergency responders. We'll be meeting, Todd's going to do his case studies where he's really talking to other pools and understanding how they function. All of that is going to be formulated over the summer, is where we're going to do the mass of our work to kind of create a concept that we think responds to all the information we've heard and how the parks currently function today. I think we still have some people online.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I see one other hand online for Kathy. I'm going to allow you to talk, and then you can unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I was just hearing a couple things that people were saying and just wanted to add in my 2 cents. I do want to say that perhaps that the current people who are programming the pools, as of right now, it might be helpful for those folks to meet maybe with you guys, or perhaps you guys as well as the residents, to make sure that the current pools are meeting the programming needs of the community. I heard someone mention that they don't see a lot of adults lap swimming in the 1 hour, 6 o'clock swim in the big pool. And I would say that I would love to be there every day doing that. But I don't feel that it is very supported in the current environment. We don't have lane lines put in. We don't have the ability to use equipment in the pool. And if there's thunder and lightning, you wait all day to go swimming at 6 o'clock, and then there's thunder and lightning at 5:45, and now you've got to start waiting your countdown for when you can swim again. I think that that in addition to meeting maybe with the current people in charge of programming, to meet with the community and see if the current needs are being met. So then you could extend those into whatever plans end up being made. I heard the comment about the concrete, and I agree with that. And I wonder if folks are considering like the runoff and all that kind of stuff. It also is really hot on little feet and big feet when the concrete's out in the sun for so long. I heard someone mention using the pools year round. I do know that there are adult teams practicing year round in heated pools into the winter time. And I think it's in Lower Marion Township. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is, but there is one that I know goes year round, shoveling snow off the deck to go swimming, to practice, as well as I know over in Upper Dublin and Manorloo, they open their heated pool to teams. I want to say April or something like that. And I do think it's really important for the tot pool to be a tot pool accessible. I know there's one at Alvethorpe, and I know we have the 2 currently at the pools. And I think that those are really important for the young ones to learn how to swim, like the little tots, I guess you could say, before they're ready to go into the recreation or middle-sized pools. So I think that's really important to incorporate. I know that it's fun to have like the splash pads, and that is a really good, like you're saying, it does not require a lifeguard, so it's really good to be available even extended hours when the pool might not be open or on days the pool is closed to the public. And I know you can combine them with the ice skating rinks, which I think would be really good to use that space year round. Um, and then, but I think it is important for the smallest kids to be able, with their grown-ups, to go and be able to be in the water and experience that so they can develop their swim skills before they're ready for the leisure size pool. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. That's a lot of great feedback. Do we have any?
Got one more online.
Okay.
All right, Steve Sakavage, I'm going to allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself and share your thoughts, ask your question.
Great, thanks so much. I appreciate the comments from everybody. I agree with almost everything that's been said. I will say, and my experience is mostly at Penbryn, and it's mostly from a leisure perspective. But one of the things that makes that pool enjoyable right now is the grass surface and that it's not overly paved. I think that's a huge benefit. I was used to big paved, pool areas as a kid, and just remember burning my feet and not being able to spend as much time there. And so I think having that, keeping that grass surface is really helpful, and keeping some of the shade in places with the trees is very beneficial. I think from a utilization standpoint, if you look at the amount of time and the amount of people that spend their time at the pool over the course of a summer, the vast majority are in the leisure end. But I don't know that adding, leisure features is necessarily going to drive more, pool utilization or greatly improve the pool experience. I think that in general, the pool's utilized, the kids have fun there, and I think that adding features is usually a potential for added maintenance and reducing capacity without necessarily making the experience much greater. So I would lean towards considering capacity and then improving, obviously, like the filtering systems and things like that, so that you can handle the number of people who would like to attend. That's it from my end.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll switch back over. Is there anyone we haven't heard? Have we heard? I think maybe in the glasses, we haven't heard from you recently, and then. Okay. Yeah. Whichever, if you want to go in the front first and then pass to the person behind you.
Okay. All right. Just a few additional comments. I'm a Crestmont swimmer, and one of the things I love about Crestmont Pool is the way it's tucked back in. People, friends of ours who go to the mall, have no idea there's a great pool back there. I would hate to see it put right on the highway, the road. I just think it's nice to have a pool removed from all the traffic. The other thing, we're talking about these two big pools. Are there any kiddie pools in this design? Because, this is a family affair, going to a pool. And you raise your kids, you start in a little pool, the medium. It's really, I think the Abington pools, the way they've been designed, are fabulous.
Ted, do you want to speak to how the designs accommodate?
Well, I mean, obviously the beach access pools really do create a lot of shallow area for kids. But again, as we said earlier on, these are concepts that we've seen in other facilities and other pools that have been designed in other areas too. So, I mean, we were just looking at, again, concept ideas, placeholder ideas to see how things fit in terms of massing, where the pools are, what the areas were going to be. But obviously having shallow water for teaching and training for little kids is incredibly important. And we do that in virtually all of our pools. We make sure that there are areas set aside for teaching and training. One of the photographs that we showed in our slide is a pool that we just recently completed down in Virginia, where we have a 6-lane pool with an intermediary area that's a 3 foot to 3.5 feet to 3 feet that's used for teaching and training, and then a fan-shaped beach access area that comes up to 0 depth. So, I mean, those are all areas that the kids just flock to. And again, it creates that family environment. But believe it or not, I mean, the lap pool gets used all day long for just general recreational swimming, and they're programming it for adult exercise along with the swim team use later in the evening. So, I mean, I think at every pool, there are compromises made in terms of how pools function. We really tended to get away from some of the tot pools by using the water spray areas as an additional functional space. But again, if the community is really geared towards the kiddie pool complex, those are all independent filter systems, all independent sanitation for each one of those pools. That can be accommodated, and it has been already with the way the pools currently function. I mean, you may really have the best of both worlds in the concepts of how the original pools were built. One of the things that's interesting about Pembroke is the fact that it does have that play of elevation changes around the pool, where you have the different levels, where you have different pools and different functions. But unfortunately, the American with Disabilities Act frowns on that very heavily. So in other words, now instead of having stairways, we have to have ramps that are 12% or 1%, or 1 in 12 slopes to be able to make us interdict all those spaces together. So I think the reality of it is as we take this feedback from tonight, it's going to change the designs immensely. I doubt very seriously if the final solution is going to look like anything we presented tonight, because we've gotten great feedback from you.
I mean, one thing that maybe didn't talk about as we we're going through the concepts, but looking at the screen now at concept B, the idea of, can we still keep the pool tucked in the park, but can it relate to the clubhouse, right? So you have this great clubhouse. Could that back porch of the clubhouse be part of the pool deck? So you could have a private event at the clubhouse that also has access to the pool during a pool event, and really start to give a little bit more life to the clubhouse in terms of what type of rentals might happen there. The other advantage of not necessarily putting the pool in the same location is you could potentially keep a pool online while you're building the new pool. So that's something to kind of think about too. But I definitely can appreciate how well the Crestmont pool is tucked back into the park. But it's just things to kind of think about, the pros and cons of why you might look at alternative locations within Crestmont. I think we were going to go next to Jess. I definitely saw your hand up in the very back that we'll get to you.
I just wanted to say that I think the pools are a great value for the residents in the township. And my only fear with us cutting out one would be that it's going to kind of box some people out of a pool membership, because we would have to consider space. And it would be the same thing for the swim team. I think our swim teams currently are like a huge value, that it's reasonably priced. It's a great exercise, and it's a great intro to swim for kids who, just want to have fun during the summer, but then maybe they love it and start to swim all year round, which is what happened with my kids. But so I would just say, and there's also other people who use the pools regularly. Like, we have camps that walk to Pembroke 2 days out of the week, 3 days out of the week, 4 days out of the week. So to eliminate one would be a huge problem for those kids who otherwise don't get access to a pool all the time, maybe. So I would just hope, and I think Todd kind of just addressed this, that maybe at the next meeting, we could see maybe more ideas that keep both pools, but maybe address the different, like you're saying, that's the most expensive option. So maybe there's like option A that has a lazy river, and there's option B that kind of keeps the same general idea, but like just cleaned up a bathroom. And
be clear, when we're looking at the both pool options, we're looking at one thing we didn't say at the beginning of the meeting, both of these pools are at the end of their life. Yeah. And sorry if that wasn't made clear at the end of the meeting. So we're looking best case scenario, you kind of have 5 years of a buffer, right, on these pools. when we're looking at that both pool concept, I don't think we're looking at a lot of bells and whistles at either pool, and it's still going to be your priciest concept. It's kind of like what you have there now is what you get in both pools.
I think
And that's still going to be the most expensive, and we probably should have put a couple more dollar signs on it, because it's not a 4 to 5, it's probably more like a 3 to 6, right? You're paying for 2 full pools. It's twice as expensive. And then you also have to address all the issues in the park that makes those parks not function right now with those pools. So we're really talking about coming up with a funding strategy that's going to be not just grants from the state. And I'm not going to, like, the alternative is somehow the township has to pay for it. And there's different vehicles on how that happens, but it's going to affect every resident in the township when you start to have to figure out how you're going to pay for 2 pools. So I don't know if that makes why we're looking at a 1 pool option a little clearer.
No, I mean, I understand. I'm just saying, like, even like the options that were shown, they still include, you know, like, just for example, like adding pickleball and adding whatever, like, could we see an option that doesn't? I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, for next time, if we're gonna look at more options, then maybe those are things that we address. Because maybe we don't add everything at one time. If you want to add pickleball.
No, definitely.
Maybe we add pickleball later on, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And I think in all of those, like, we tried to be pretty similar in each park. All those things don't have to happen. It was more kind of like, what could you get in the park if you didn't have a pool? And try to get feedback on what people wanted to see if there wasn't a pool. Because you do suddenly open up space in the park.
I think we've heard loud and clear they want pools.
Yeah. No, we are hearing it. And I think it's going to be a reality that we kind of have to do our best diligence of what it looks like if you move forward with 2 pools. I'll be very honest, the last feasibility study completed in 2018 said the community wanted 2 pools. We're almost a decade later, right? So we can't just keep kicking. We got to come up with a realistic solution that the township can implement, and everybody agrees they're willing to take on the burden if the ultimate solution is 2 pools. Okay, so in the back here. Oh, sorry, Jess. I'm sorry. Jess had a comment, or?
In terms of the splash pad that is in the one concept for Pembroke, I'm just looking at it from the perspective of being involved with the township pools for a little over 30 years now. Is there, I mean, in some of the pool complexes that I've seen that I've been to that are newer, they've incorporated the splash pad feature with kind of the tot area that kind of flows into, you know, the 0 entry and then into, you know, a lazy river. Is that something that is even an idea to try and conceptually?
Yeah, I think some of the precedent images kind of showed the bucket in the 0 entry. So yeah, I think that's something, if that's a direction people want to go and kind of incorporate that all a little bit more. I think the thought was we wanted to also explore the option of, could it be outside of the pool so that it functions? So, but yeah, I think we can look at both options.
Yeah, I'm
in
just
terms of what would be the most preferred.
With families that have children of various ages, you know, you have the older kids that are going to want to be in the bigger pools or the competition pools. And then you have, you know, the babies or, you know, the little ones. So if they're at 2 different locations, it's like, you know, the parents can't be in 2 places at once. So, you know, I'm just thinking from a family perspective of how they could benefit more of having all of those things in one location.
Okay, thank you. Very back.
I just have a question about the survey. Is there going to be data gathered about the people answering if they actually use the pools within, like, let's say, the past 5 years versus somebody that's never stepped a toe in either pool?
Right. I think, Toby, did we say 6 months or within the last year? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do we also, if we haven't, do we have a question that clarifies if you're a resident of Abington? Yes. Okay. So what we'll be able to do with, when we have those questions, it allows us to kind of then filter responses. So we can look at responses of just pool users, just Abington residents, and kind of really make sure we're looking at the data from different points of view. But thank you. That's a great question. we'll take a few more comments because we are getting to it. So I see 4 hands go up. But let's start with you in the front, and then we'll go to the gentleman behind, and then we'll work our way over here and end with John.
I don't know if it's connected or if you guys are aware that the pool membership has changed this year. You have to get new tags. So are these surveys or not even a survey, these announcements or letting people know, is that stuff there so you can directly hear from people that have the memberships? I know some people have already gotten theirs, but I'm sure there are people that haven't yet.
Jess, are we able to broadcast like an email to membership for the survey? Okay, so yeah, we can look into doing that. Right behind there, yeah.
Okay, quick question. What's the difference in pool square footage in each of the plans compared to what we currently have?
So again, these are just concepts.
The projected,
It's on the, each
pool
plan
area?
has the bond.
Yeah, I think if you go back to, yeah, but again, these are all just concepts. They're not necessarily tied to locations in the park.
It's gonna get tightened up just because of the economics. We're gonna tighten these up.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
this one, the leisure pool was 7,500, and the competition pool is 4,500.
And the reason these pools were larger in this particular situation is because this was designed as a singular facility for the township. So that's why these pools tend to be larger than what you currently have. So I think in a lot of respects, what's going to happen, especially after what we're hearing tonight, there's going to be a tightening of the belt. There's going to be a tightening of the concepts of the pool. There's going to be more focus put on family orientation and things of that nature, and potentially less on the competition side. I mean, if we have the 6 or 8 lanes at each facility, or 6 lanes at each facility, we've met that requirement to have swim teams at both facilities. So, but again, when we looked at these options, that we had heard from several of the swim folks that they were concerned about, could we have a pool that could host larger meets and larger events for the Philadelphia area? So that's one of the reasons some of these pools are larger than we would normally see in a municipal setting.
So yeah, this one was 64 for the competition, which shows that 25 meter and 25 yard crisscross. And then the leisure pool, again, like Ted was saying, is much larger to accommodate the consolidation of the 2 pools. I'm not sure. I think it's 8 by 8, but I could be wrong on how they get counted. Can we go through, just flip through all of them? Yeah. Was there a few more? Let's see. Okay. And then, yeah, so this was again, looking at Penbryn as not necessarily just as a single pool here. So 45 for the competition, leisure kind of combined.
The
And
competition tank is roughly about 3,300 square feet for the 6-lane pool. And then you have the leisure area going from 3.5 feet to beach access. And then that's the other area that's associated with that.
So, okay, up front here.
Yeah, this is Steve Miller again. I just wanted to make a comment, and this is more just a general comment about just for everybody when you're looking at it. I'm not saying that eliminating grass is the ideal, but grass is not accessible. So when you're seeing concrete at the playgrounds and at the parks, or you're seeing poured in place rubber, it's for accessibility reasons. So keep in mind, it's not to eliminate the grass. They're still going to have grass. They're still going to have trees. It is to maximize the accessibility of the locations. So there was a lot of anti-concrete conversation. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And then there's also, on a rainy year, when does that grass get beat up and become a mud pit? We heard that at the first meeting, that can be an issue. So we got to strike a balance between very well maintained, usable, like maybe we look at some under drains in the lawn area, things like that. Or maybe we look at, I think it's still not the most accessible, but a reinforced plastic cup lawn so that there's maybe a pathway through the lawn, things like that. So yeah. John.
Thank you kindly. First of all, thank you. So this is a great presentation. This gives everybody a lot to think about. Just so I can, so I and my fellow commissioners can let folks know, when are we looking at the survey being live?
We are anticipating a week. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So part of what the survey is going to have, it'll have these pictures in the survey. So we just needed to make sure they were like the final version
in the survey. So that's why it's not being launched tonight.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And then, but this is probably a little bit of an in the weeds question, but already I know I know I've been hearing from folks primarily through like social media about their impressions of what they've heard about what was going to be presented tonight. And people obviously have some very strong opinions. I think it's safe to say. This is sort of an extension of our one neighbor's question about is there going to be a question to help us ascertain how frequently folks answering the survey actually use the pool. I'm wondering if it's possible to have a question about for folks who do access the pools and the parks, a question about how they get there. Because
we have that.
Okay, good. Because I think it would be helpful to us to know. I mean, these are obviously the pools are for everybody, but they are also neighborhood pools and neighborhood parks. And there are going to be a lot of folks who just walk there or ride their bikes there. And I think that's sort of good for us to know as well, to be able to kind of correlate all those data.
Yeah.
Thank you again so much.
Yeah,
And
thank you. And with that, we are going to bring the meeting to close. We're about 10 minutes over. But definitely you have our emails on the handout. Reach out to us, call us, come back, tell us what you want to hear. I know you didn't get to say your final comment in the front there. Please call me tomorrow. We'll take your phone call and we'll listen to what you have to say.
And for those who didn't get a chance to share their thoughts online also, please do feel free to reach out to us at any time. We are always happy to receive an email, no matter what time of day it is. Doesn't mean we'll respond right away, but we are always happy to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.